Solutions adopted in furtherance of efforts at achieving sustainable growth and development of the country.
It was the 9th meeting of Nigeria's highest policy decision-making body for the year 2021 and 38 to be conducted virtually in compliance with the COVID-19 Safety Advisory. 4 memoranda presented by ministers were considered and approved by the Council towards sustaining the upward trajectory in the nation's quest for a prosperous future. Amongst them is the one by the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Timothy Silva, on the rehabilitation of Port Harcourt Refinery.
And that memo was approved by Council today, so we're happy to announce that the rehabilitation of Port Harcourt Refinery will commence forthwith. It is in 3 phases. The first phase is to be completed in 18 months, which will take the refinery to a production of 90% of its nameplate capacity. The second phase is to be completed in 24 months. The final stage will be completed in 44 months.
Required funds for the project to be handled by an Italian company, the minister said, have already been provided, and as part of the conditions agreed with the lenders, a professional operations and maintenance company is to be engaged to effectively manage the refinery after the rehabilitation exercise.
It is actually a desire of the administration to ensure that our refineries work, and that is the process that has borne fruit today. When the other refineries will also be rehabilitated, discussions are ongoing. We want to take one at a time, and I want to assure you that before the lifetime of this administration expires, work on all the refineries would have at least commenced. On the issue of local participation, as you know, there is a local content law. So our local people will be fully involved with Technimont SPA.
The Council also approved a contract variation of 8.6 billion naira for the completion of Enugu-Onitsha Highway project.
The variation was to cater for the change of the pavement surface, the binder cost and the wearing cost to increase the thickness, and also to utilize modified bitumen, and also to strengthen the shoulders and some bridge works.
On his part, the Minister of Health, Dr. Osage Ihanere, secured the Council's approval on behalf of the NCDC for the procurement of various laboratory equipment and supplies valued at 3.07 billion naira.
It is to strengthen the work of NCDC in various parts of the countries to be more ready for the work they do in diagnostics and preparedness, not only for COVID-19, but for any other disease outbreak of public interest in the future.
Also approved at the weekly meeting is the reviewed National Integrated Infrastructure Master Plan 2020 to 2043.
There are about 7 asset classes that are contained in the master plan. This is in the areas of transportation, energy, ICT, agriculture, water and mining, social infrastructure, housing and regional development, security and vital registration.
Apart from the embedded macroeconomic framework, the new master plan, as the minister explained, also provides for the establishment of the National Council on Infrastructure to be chaired by the Vice President. It is to provide policy direction on all matters relating to the provision of infrastructure across Nigeria. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
And from the legislative scene, we hear that the Senate has been preoccupied with interventions in national security matters at Tuesday's plenary. It was an extensive debate on a constitution amendment bill seeking to establish the Armed Forces Service Commission. National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Unkwa reports that the bill met a roadblock en route second reading.
It was the second plenary of the week, and the first order of the day was the bill that seeks to establish Armed Forces Service Commission. Sponsor of the bill and minority leader of the Senate, Enyin Naya Baribe, provided the synopsis of the bill, which, among other issues, seeks to ensure federal character principle in the appointment of service chiefs.
The establishment of this commission is informed by the imperative to give effect to the provisions of Section 217 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic to ensure that the composition, appointment of service chiefs of the Armed Forces of the Federation reflects the said section.
This commission would go a very long way to address certain concerns and also to strengthen the unity of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
There is a police commission that oversights the police. In any case, it does not even tamper with the powers of the president to appoint service chiefs. No.
And there's already in existence a defense council which combine the joint forces. Therefore, Mr. President, I think I want to urge that the mover of this bill do withdraw the bill.
The commission cannot know who is competent, because by the time we establish this bill, the military will be politicized.
That power to make the appointment is already conferred on Mr. President, and that's a constitutional provision.
I don't think there is really any need at this level. In terms of principles of the motion, I think the motion passes every test that it should go and pass the second reading.
Eventually, it was rejected.
This bill be now read a second time. Say aye. Those against say nay. The nays have it.
And the sponsor remained unbowed, calling for another round of voting, relying under Order 73 of the Senate Standing Orders. This led to a heated atmosphere and culminated into a closed-door session where the contention was resolved.
Our minority leader, having heard our appeal that we don't have to go into the ruling of the order he raised.
In order to preserve the dignity of these hallowed chambers, I wish to withdraw my Order 73.
It's now expected that the bill will be represented at a later date after due consultations. The Senate has adjourned to Tuesday, 23rd of March, 2021. From the National Assembly, Ignatius Nkwo, NTA News.
On security, cutting off the stream of supply of arms to criminals is a task the Nigeria Police is executing currently. Police Public Relations Officer Frank Omba disclosed this to newsmen in Abuja while parading 50 kidnapped suspects, including members of a major ammunition supply syndicate who were arrested conveying 1,565 AK-47 ammunition to bandits. Francis Pham reports.
Prince of criminals, 44-year-old, jailed several times for high-profile crimes. Just December last year, he was granted pardon in Kaduna Correctional Center. Despite this benevolence, no sign of repentance. He may likely revisit the correctional center again after found with a pistol.
A bygone. I said, how will they get a bullet? He said, let me send the money to bullet. I send them only to bullet. That is the way they catch me.
This 20-year-old suspect specializes in altering international mobile identification number, a talent he has obviously misplaced.
How many phones have you changed the IMEI number?
8, sir. Techno and Infinix, sir.
A gang of 6 specializes in robbing residential areas. They confirmed carrying out robbery operations in Kwara, Ondo and Abuja, and also admitted profiling their victims before operations. Also paraded was a gang of 3 who conspired to kidnap manager of AYM Ashafa filling station in Zaria, Kaduna State. But prompt availability of intelligence helped the police for swift reaction.
We are working with both our local intelligence sources as well as our international partners to ensure that we're able to cut down the free flow of arms and ammunition.
Parade over. Next step is the courtroom, where their fate will be decided by those on the wicks. Francis Pham, NTA News.
Well, in Kaduna State, barely 24 hours after extraordinary security meeting with stakeholders, Governor Nasiru Ahmed El-Rufai has again restated government's stance never to negotiate with any group of bandits or pay ransom for the release of abducted students in the state. The governor said this when the chief of the air staff, Air Marshal Ishaku Amao, paid him a courtesy visit at the government house, Kaduna, to discuss ways of ensuring the safe return of the abducted students. Let's hear more from Mohammed Umar Ajingi.
It is the first official visit of the Chief of Air Staff to the government house since assumption of office. And it is coming at a time the state is seeking for the support of the Air Force to rescue the abducted students of Federal College of Forestry Mechanization Africa and the teachers of Rema Primary School, Pinungwari. The Air Chief says the days of the bandits are numbered, as his men will do all they can to rescue the abducted students.
And we are out for them, and the armed forces is out, the CDS and the service chiefs, we are determined.
The state government restated its confidence in the ability of the Air Force to deal with the bandits.
We were able to rescue 180, they are only able to get away with 39. Those 39 lives matter to us, and we will do whatever we can to get them back, but we will not pay a penny as ransom. All the stakeholders supported us that the position that we've taken is the right position. In fact, one of the stakeholders suggested that we should make the payment of ransom a criminal offense, because if the ransom is not paid, the business will end.
It shows Nigerians that the Air Force is intensifying air surveillance to rescue the abducted students. In Kaduna, I am Muhammad Umar Ajingi, NTA News.
The personal vehicle of the Emir of Birnungwari was attacked on its way to Kaduna. Abdullahi Mohammed reports that despite the damage to the vehicle by bullet shots, the driver of the vehicle and security survived the attack.
The vehicle, riddled with bullet holes on the windshield and the driver's side door, indicates how vicious the attack was. It's clear the target was to hit the driver and halt the vehicle, but the security personnel attached to the vehicle was on top of his game. The Emir of Birnungwari, Zubairu Jibrin Megwari II, was supposed to travel in the car, but somehow he decided to take another option.
At the last minute, I decided to ask for relief from Nigerian Air Force, and they were the ones who brought me to Kaduna that evening. And so that's how God made it. I was not in the car, but it's clear that the bandits targeted my car, and Allah protected my driver and my orderly. Only my car is the one that got some bruises, but we thank God.
His driver, who survived the attack, remembered vividly the sorrowful incident.
We were heading towards a highland, and suddenly they began to throw obstacles, and thereafter shots from various points. And our security returned fire until we scaled through their traps.
In Kaduna, Abdullahi Muhammad, NTA News.
And more on security, troops of 81 Task Force Battalion of the Nigerian Army, in conjunction with Civilian Joint Task Force and Vigilante, on Monday, 15 March 2021, neutralized several terrorists in Dikwa Axis, Borno State. A statement by the Director of Army Public Relations, Brigadier General Mohammed Yerima, says the joint operation, which is a continuation of the ongoing subsidiary operation in the theater of Operation Lafia Dole, codenamed Operation Tura Takaibongo, also recovered arms from the terrorists. All right, let's go on a break. We're back. You stay tuned.
Hey, beautiful. Your eyes, your smile are all begging me to take you home tonight. Now reading page 3. Experience unlimited super-fast internet access from Entel 4G. Entel. Live more.
Thanks for being there. The United Nations has appealed for greater efforts to combat violence against women worldwide. President, United Nations General Assembly Volkan Bozkır said this in New York at the opening of the 65th session of the Commission on the Status of Women. Aguele Brooksland Sunday reports.
The United Nations Commission on the Status of Women, which was founded 74 years ago, seeks to evaluate gender equality and promote policies for the advancement of women across the globe. Volkan Bozkır and other key players at the session agreed that better laws need to be made in order to prevent violence against women.
I call here on all member states to strengthen legislation against gender-based violence, establish reporting and redress mechanisms for victims, commit to data collection, election observation, and violence monitoring.
I also call on states to harmonize definitions of rape with international human rights standards and to explicitly include lack of consent at its center.
For the Secretary General Antonio Guterres, the fallout from COVID-19 pandemic has shown how deeply gender inequality remains embedded in the world's political, social, and economic systems.
What you need is not more training for women, but to train those in power on how to build inclusive institutions. We need to move beyond fixing women and instead fix our systems. We must also support women leaders in all their diversity and abilities.
The final thematic report to the Human Rights Council is expected to address the prevention of rape as a human rights violation and on states' responsibility to prevent it. Adebola Brooksland Sunday, NTA News.
Well, good news for Nigerian women as World Trade Organization Director General Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala unveils platforms to boost trade opportunities towards driving economic growth for Nigerian women. This was during an interactive session with women from different groups and walks of life at the Ministry of Women Affairs. Momso Demiandeti has details.
An expectant gathering. An excited atmosphere of photo sessions and pleasantries. Then comes the moment everyone has been waiting for, the arrival of Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. That set the ball rolling as women from elective and appointive offices, military, police force, civil society groups, development partners, and all take turns to make a case.
So a patriot, somebody who wants to make sure that her people, her country, her women excel.
Who want development, who is happy to help.
Has shown that a woman can get to any level in life as long as you are focused.
We inspire our women to just dream beyond where they are today.
Unanimously, they agree with the submission of the wife of Nigerian president, represented, and that of women minister.
You know that Nigerian women are great entrepreneurs. They have done so much. So many of them have been so frustrated in their various businesses. God has brought you to this seat to salvage us.
On behalf of Her Excellency, Dr. Mrs. Aisha Muhammad Buhari, stand here to congratulate you. We want to have more of your ties representing us not only in Nigeria, but all over the world.
The response of the World Trade Organization DG was as expected.
The WTO cares about the ordinary man and woman on the street. The WTO wants to help redress inequality through trade. The WTO wants to see trade as an engine of economic growth, which is what we all need during this pandemic.
Momso Demiandeti, NTA News.
Well, on the global scene, Moderna begins delivering experimental doses of its COVID-19 vaccine to children, and European Union to blacklist Chinese officials for human rights abuses. Uche Ugochukwu gives us details.
The European Union has threatened to ban exports of COVID-19 vaccines to Britain to safeguard scarce doses for its own citizens facing a third wave of the pandemic. Moderna Incorporated said it has begun delivering experimental doses of its COVID-19 vaccine to children as part of a study to determine whether it is safe and effective in those as young as 6 months. The trial aims to enroll about 6,750 volunteers in the US and Canada. Brazil's leading health institute warns that the country is experiencing a historic collapse of its health service as intensive care units in hospitals run out of capacity. The warning came as the country registered its highest daily death toll of 2,841 in 24 hours. Now, the world has recorded more than 121.4 million cases of COVID-19, and Nigeria accounts for 161,047 infections, having reported 179 new cases Tuesday. To other news, the European Union agreed on Wednesday to blacklist Chinese officials for human rights abuses. EU ambassadors approved the travel bans and asset freezes on 4 Chinese individuals and 1 entity, whose names will not be made public until formal approval by EU foreign ministers on March 22. And Denmark will deploy a frigate to the Gulf of Guinea in Africa's west coast to help address the rising sea piracy in the region. The country, which is a major shipping nation, will send the frigate to the region for 5 months from November this year. Uche Ugochukwu, NTA News.
And back home for us, Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions has reassured Nigerians of its commitment to a thorough investigation of the alleged mismanagement of 6.2 billion naira NDDC palliative funds. Chairman of the committee gave the assurance at a press briefing in Abuja. Mobolaji Moribiri reports.
Prior to the press briefing, the committee had summoned the sole administrator of the Niger Delta Development Commission to appear before it and provide explanations of how the alleged 6.2 billion naira meant for procurement of COVID-19 palliative was spent.
27 senators are here. None of us can vouch that any of these people get to their constituents. So we want the sole administrator of Niger Delta Region and his top management staff, in NDDC to come forward with their written defense in black and white, at least 10 copies each, to get to this committee secretariat on or before 3 p.m. on Thursday. There we will study it, then we will now open a public hearing based on their submission to do Nigeria on 29th March 2021.
The committee promised to play its constitutional role in protecting the citizenry. From the National Assembly, Mobolaji Moribiri, NTA News.
The Speaker, House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, says the proponents of the movement of minimum wage from exclusive to concurrent list were concerned about welfare of workers, especially the age-long problem of irregular or non-payment of salaries. While hosting leadership of the Nigerian Labour Congress, who visited on the issue, Gbajabiamila reassured that the House would never do anything to hurt Nigerians, as the lawmakers will always work in tandem with the yearnings and aspirations of the people.
Whatever the issue is on the issue of minimum wage, whatever was proposed, whatever was debated, those who debated for and those who debated against, every single person that spoke on the floor was well intended.
The NLC President Ayuba Wabba was of the view that minimum wage bill will erode the more than 40 years of progress made on minimum wage negotiation in Nigeria. And talking sports, Nigerian National League goes tough on poor officiating. Sport update is next.
Hello once again and welcome